Ghosts and ghouls, demons and aliens, monsters and worse, only here on Ghost or What, the best channel for original scary stories. Our next story is Couple Encounter Strange Creatures. The story that I am narrating is about 10 years old, but the whole story is so unrealistic that no one believes us. Whenever we try to tell this to someone, people think that we are making things up. But this is one of the strangest realities of our lives. Whenever I try to think about those memories, I even doubt myself if all that was real or just my imagination. I never even recalled those memories with my wife. It felt like both of us were so haunted by those memories that we never wanted to face those things again. The story is from the time when I started dating my wife, my then girlfriend. It had been just a few months when a strange idea came into my wife's mind. She came up with the thought that everyone goes on a blind date, but couples do not do that. She suggested going for a blind double date. I could not understand the reason for doing that, but she wanted to have more friends, and she wanted to have the experience. On the contrary, I could not decide if it was a good idea or not, but I agreed anyway. Searching for another partner for our blind double date was completely done by her solely. I was just told about the date and time for our date. I was still confused about the whole idea, but stayed silent as she looked extremely excited about the new experience. We were supposed to meet them on a Saturday night. We got dressed and got into the car. We reached the decided hotel in just half an hour and sat at a table, waiting for them. After waiting for another 5 minutes, finally, we saw a couple entering the hotel. They looked like the most perfect couple. They both had the most flawless skin I had ever seen, and their appearance was also complementing each other. As I was thinking about all this, I heard my wife praising the couple. Their names were Nathan and Alexandra. They came toward us and asked for our identity and then sat across from us. We had dinner, then a few drinks. They both seemed extremely polite and friendly people, and we enjoyed every bit of our date. But unfortunately, everything was not even close to what it was looking like. Once, when we were done with everything, they asked us to go to their place as they really enjoyed our company. We both hesitated for a while, but then they insisted, to which we agreed. We followed them in our, all of a sudden, they hit the brake. And so did we. Then we saw Nathan getting out of the car and opening the bonnet, trying to figure out the problem. We both looked at each other and also went out to help them. As we reached closer, I smelled something very strange, and then I fainted. When I opened my eyes, I found myself in a huge bedroom. My wife was lying beside me. I tried to think about what had happened, but could not recall anything. I tried to sit, but my head was fiercely spinning. I held it in my both hands, and then everything started to come to me. And then I remembered Nathan and Alexandra, and I immediately stood up from my place. As I tried to open the door, luckily it was not locked. I quickly went back and woke up my wife as well. She woke up after a minute, and then looked around her, trying to recognize everything. I grabbed her hand and asked her to quickly follow me. We quietly went out of the room, and to our surprise, we found a long corridor. We wondered what kind of a house that was. We were silently creeping, but the mansion looked deserted. Suddenly, we heard a loud roar. We both jumped in the air, frightened. As we went further, the mansion started to get darker. It looked like one of those old castles with torches fixed on the wall. I had a lighter in my pocket. I took it out and lit the torches. We wanted to get away, so we opened one of the doors in the corridor. To our shock, there was a huge dragon-like thing lying on the floor. It had 2 necks, and both had furious expressions. Smoke was coming out of their nostrils. We timely closed the door as they blew the fire at us. I looked at my wife, terrified. I was afraid of going any further, but there was no other way out. It had been 15 minutes since we had been walking without anything other than a corridor. My wife looked like she would start to cry any minute, but she was also trying to stay focused. Finally, we saw a staircase going downwards. We carefully climbed down and waited for anyone, but still nothing. Suddenly, we heard a roar again, but it was different from the previous one. My wife and I exchanged glances. As we moved forward, I heard someone talking at some distance. I immediately stopped my wife from going further and signaled her to stay silent. I realized it was Nathan and Alexandra, so I peeked into a room. A terrifying view was waiting for me. Nathan and Alexandra were standing and talking while there were strange creatures around them. A huge, snake-like thing was circling Nathan. It had a face like a crocodile. Then there was another which looked like a huge dog. I found it cute until it opened its mouth and another dog's face came out of it. I could hardly stop myself from screaming. They were talking to each other about eating us and drinking our blood. I looked at my wife, thinking about a way of moving without getting caught. I was thinking when I accidentally pressed a brick on the wall, and it opened like a door. We both looked at each other and entered. As we entered, the door closed automatically, and all the torches were lit inside the corridor on their own. We started to follow the lights when I suddenly heard a scream. It was Nathan. He was shouting over our escape. We knew that now we had very less time to save ourselves. We started running and kept running until we saw the light. We exited in a huge forest. We did not realize that the whole night had passed. We kept running in search of some road, but we were unable to find one. My wife was getting exhausted, so I kept encouraging her. Then I saw it at some distance, but as we were about to hit the road, I saw Nathan coming towards us, sitting on a horse. But as I focused, I realized it was not a horse, but a horse skeleton. It had no eyes, but fire in place. We increased our pace and kept running. As soon as we hit the road, the whole castle vanished. There was no Nathan and nothing anymore. There was nothing but a few trees. We never ever tried to trust a total stranger, but we never got the courage to even discuss the whole incident among selves as well. Did you think that was the end? The terror never ends. Subscribe to our channel to hear more horror stories, only on Ghost or What.